I keep forgetting to put this in here, so I'm going to edit this in. Please like my channel, subscribe to my channel, and share my stories. Help me get my knowledge heard, get me a community of growth here to share the knowledge I have, to help a community share their knowledge, and to help make this world a better place. That's my main goal here. So please subscribe to my channel and share my stories. Thank you. Hello, my name is Jason and welcome back to I Have a Story. I'm making my previous video over again and I'm going to leave that one up so that you can see all the problems I constantly have with technology, with these stupid electronics. If you watched my last video, look at how many times my camera just stopped recording on its own. And then I take and edit it all together and watch my edit and oh, my microphone quit working too. Again. Not the first time. My microphone is just magically just turns itself off. Camera just turns itself off. So I'm going to leave my last video up there so you can see the struggles I have. I mean, Jesus, I started that at 5:30 this morning. You can see behind me the daylight's out now, so now I'm starting all over again. Again, I complain about this wasting time is a waste of life with this stuff. No progress for hours. So I'm making this video about the automotive sensors, and I'm going to tell you why automotive sensors are struggling with the aftermarket sensors. If you watch my last video, I'm going to keep this one much shorter. And so when a car manufacturer builds a car, they put a sensor in there. Their sensor is patented at a specific value. And I'm going to use voltage and charging systems because it's a very simple system that most people should understand. And I'm going to use simple numbers again. The car system runs at 12 volts. If the manufacturer's sensor is set to trip the light on your dash to tell you your system is not charging, your voltage is low, and they set that value at, say, 8 volts, nobody else is allowed to make a sensor to replace that one at the same value of 8 volts. An automotive aftermarket manufacturer comes out and makes a sensor that is now trips your light at 8.2. Well, they patent that sensor. Nobody else can make one that's at 8.2. So now the next aftermarket manufacturer comes in and decides they want to get into that market, has to patent theirs at a different value, say 7.8. It's still going to trip your dash light. It may cause problems because at 8 volts and the manufacturer's was made to shut down or trip the light or give you a warning, cause any other systems to change during that voltage drop. Well, now that other one's not going to happen until 7.8. And that slight difference can change and have effects on the rest of the system. And when you even acknowledge or able to acknowledge that there is an issue. Now you put that into perspective with the rest of the sensors of the car, O2 sensors. And, I already shared, and I don't know what I just stopped my video when I went back and listened to it. I get so upset with this stuff. You go back, I did some research about in listening to videos, and people don't understand that, hey, in this specific vehicle, I replaced the knock sensor with an aftermarket sensor. Sometimes you have to change the camshaft sensor too because we don't know why. We can't figure it out. Well, the answer is actually really simple. The reason for that is the aftermarket knock sensor that you were putting in there is reading a different value than what the OEM one did. So now that other sensor, your camshaft sensor, which is getting a readout from the computer off of your knock sensor on how it's supposed to operate, function, and change parameters within the engine, it's off by enough that from the other sensor that it's now triggering and can't do its job properly. So then, something I just got into my head as I'm talking about this now is, how does a car end up actually running efficiently if the values are off? Well, it still runs. You don't notice a difference. If you lose a quarter of a mile per gallon, most people won't ever notice that. Another issue is we have all this stuff and we worry about, all this stuff was supposed to be made for bettering our environment, but do people realize that how much disaster to our environment it causes to create all of this stuff? And not to mention the fact of what we do see, how much do we not see that gets tested, and all the things that take place before it ever even hits the market, all the ones that never make it to the market, everything in between. How much pollution and devastation to our environment is taking place during just that alone? I'm willing to bet it's devastating in itself. So we're doing all this supposedly for the good of humanity and our environment and everything else, when it's actually probably having just as much negative effect as they ever are making any sort of grounds gain. But if you want to know why automotive manufacturers, why you buy an aftermarket sensor and it's not working, and if you replace it with a OEM sensor and it does, that's part of why. I don't know what all got into my first video and who watched that one. I talked about a friend way back in the day who had a Ford Probe. Twice he had that car in the shop. Twice they put aftermarket sensors in there. Twice that car left the shop and it ran fine when it left the shop, but then quit running right. It's because it took time for the rest of those sensors in the computer to read what that aftermarket sensor was reading and try to figure out why, when that output coming from that sensor is telling the computer the wrong values and wrong numbers that it's expecting to see, it takes time for all that stuff to calibrate to one another and say, wait, red flag, we got something wrong here. So then the car ends up later on, usually not very long later, it starts running bad again or not running at all. Um, so it's not rocket science. All you have to do is go back and pull up the data and see that a manufacturer patents their sensors at a set value, and then go and look at the aftermarket sensors. They're patented at a different value. Put that all together. It's not rocket science. This sensor's reading a different value from what the original one did, so now your computer's seeing a different signal. Your other sensors are getting fed different signals, and things can't communicate properly. That's why aftermarket sensors sometimes fail, and sometimes you have to change other sensors to be able to match the same parameters of what that aftermarket sensor is reading, because they're not all at the set value that the standard was set by the manufacturer.